When sheep DNA merges with human DNA, what kind of monster would emerge? It all started when a farm owner, obsessed with breeding sheep with superior wool and meat quality, began conducting cruel experiments on lamb cubs. Meanwhile, two journalists snuck into the farm to investigate this shocking story. While the staff wasn't looking, they grabbed what seemed like a harmless sample bottle. But during their escape, Kaya accidentally dropped it, and a lamb cub crawled out and latched onto his ear. Fighting through the pain, he barely managed to tear it off. They rushed to an abandoned house, only to find it ransacked with the owner brutally killed. Sensing danger, they ran outside but found themselves surrounded by mutant sheep. After a heart-pounding escape, they finally made it back to their car. But out of nowhere, a rabid sheep burst into the vehicle and bit the man's leg. They scrambled onto the car roof, but what happened next was even more terrifying. The sheep could actually drive. At the cliff's edge, they had no choice but to jump, miraculously surviving the fall. Then the man's foot erupted in pain. Looking down, he was horrified to see it had transformed into a sheep's hoof. The flock, catching their scent like predators, charged toward them. The situation was spiraling out of control. They fled into the laboratory in desperation. The farm owner, despite being bitten by an infected sheep, stubbornly returned to his lab where he encountered the journalists searching for answers. When they told him about the rabid sheep, he dismissed their concerns and threw them out. Watching the mutant flock violently ramming the fences outside, the journalists had no choice but to hide in a deep pit filled with disturbing experimental remains. In the darkness, they could hear sheep bleeding from the depths. They barely escaped by climbing through the rock crevices. The farm owner, though injured, insisted on showcasing his masterpiece. But suddenly, thousands of sheep swarmed down the hillside, attacking the crowd. The once docile animals had become savage beasts, sending everyone running for their lives. A sheep blocked the farm owner's escape route. Looking down, he realized his bitten hand had turned into a hoof. Desperate to escape, he decided to flee by plane, still clutching his experimental achievements. But just before takeoff, his body began to mutate. His teeth fell out one by one, and he transformed into a grotesque creature with a sheep's head and human body. To stop the virus from spreading further, the journalists remembered the sheep's tendency to pass gas frequently. They threw a lit lighter into the flock, triggering a massive explosion that wiped out all the infected sheep. The nightmare was finally over.